One thing about the cards going down for EBT system, but what if it went down for, you and I, we couldn't use our credit cards, we couldn't use our debit cards, couldn't get money out of the ATM. Hopefully you would have had some spare cash, literally cash in small denomination notes laying around the house in your safe somewhere, gold, silver, so you could still trade. Because I talk to the Amish guys and they're always willing to take silver for anything. Still, they prefer that versus the paper dollars.
I think it is going to come to that in some areas. I think to me, a very low lifestyle is a very high population density. I mean, even though I'm a football fan, I've been to many live games. You go into a stadium of 80,000 people, it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, you're just a little sardine moving with the crowd. I mean, you can't really set your own pace.
You can see the supply chain disintegrating across the planet. And one of these things that's going to fail along with that will be the food supply chain. Do you have enough emergency food? Most people don't, and they'll panic when the time comes.
And give yourself the peace of mind knowing that you have storable foods. 20+ year shelf life allows you to make wise choices, be able to stay home, avoid the chaos. So head on over to foodwithadapt2030.com and see what else My Patriot Supply has to keep your family's grand solar minimum prepared. And now on with the video.
Welcome everyone. This is David Morgan of themorganreport.com, and today I have David DuByne from Adapt 2030. David, it's been a while since we got to communicate one-on-one for the public's benefit. And I remember, I think in a first interview that we did or discussion, it's a conversation between us. We're talking about food before it really was that well known that we're having all of these crises. But the one big takeaway, which pretty much stunned me, was when we went over that, we talked about what has happened in the past. And of course, the history rhymes, it doesn't repeat exactly, was the amount of cost for food. And I think it was somewhere around 400%. So, if you're looking at someone not in the Western world where we're paying maybe 5% of our income to buy food, if it goes quadruple, that's 25%. But someone in Indonesia or the Asian countries or less developed economies, I mean, you're talking what the Bible says. It's a day's wages for some barley kind of thing. Can we go over that again, because it really stunned me, and I don't think people really heard it the first time.
So it's the whole wild card is the human element here on how they are going to perceive and react to changes from politics to economy to availability to starvation, famine, population migration, and then all these things in terms of earth changes and actual physical planetary changes. I know, again, a lot to unpack there. Too early for you. Double espresso there, David.
Well, I remember, and it was years ago, where that, I won't call it an ultimate truth, but a very good look when, and I think the way it was stated was the thin veneer of civilization, and reading, history and what happens when that thin veneer is peeled off and there isn't enough food and the economy is in disarray, and it's basically Darwinian survival of the fittest. And you take it for granted, especially someone my age in the boomer generation, that things have been pretty darn good for birth till recent times, up until really there's been wars, there's a Vietnam. I mean, I can make a case for disruptions, but basically, we didn't have any real food supply problems, and there was always more in the store. You didn't have empty shelves during a hurricane or whatever. So now we're facing what you said. And it's not just here in the US, it's basically everywhere. It's been that way in, let's say, very underdeveloped nations. So with what I see coming, I agree with, I think, everything you've said so far. It's frightening to think about what happens when that thin veneer is peeled off and people do whatever they have to do to be able to feed their kids or get some water or, whatever. And that's very scary. I mean, it goes to a dystopian movie, except it's reality. And I don't even like to even talk about it. I remember early on about, my take on the monetary system, which I've done for my life. And someone asked me, well, do you think there'll be social unrest? And I said, yes, there will be social unrest. And I didn't downplay it at the time. And from what I'd seen from that point of view, you would have definitely disruptions in the large cities because there's so much, welfare type of situations where people get food stamps or one of those debit card things from the government to get their food, and those things fail because, one, you're not getting enough food for the amount on the card, or there's a disruption in the electronic system where it doesn't read the card, or any of these variables that could take place. You can have a really quick turnabout where one day you're safe and sound and aware, and the next day they're riding in the streets, there's food fights or breaking windows and grabbing stuff. And that frightens me, and I think others, as it should. And what is the precautions you can take? I mean, only so many of us can hide out in very low population densities, have enough food where we can last for a month by ourselves or whatever, which is a short-term solution, but certainly not a long-term solution. So why don't you pick up on my thread? I know what you've done. We've talked about it, from time to time. And you've done a lot in Tennessee, and congratulations on that. And I know you're making a strong community, which is where it all lies. You can't really get stored food in your own well in a shotgun and think you're really safe. You're not. It does come down to community, which means, I guess, and I'm not trying to answer the question for you, unless you've really thought this thing through from a longer term perspective, as you have, you may be in a situation that all of a sudden you find yourself in, there's really no out to it. Am I right?
That is, one thing about the cards going down for EBT system, but what if it went down for, you and I, we couldn't use our credit cards, we couldn't use our debit cards, couldn't get money out of the ATM. Hopefully you would have had some spare cash, literally cash in small denomination notes laying around the house in your safe somewhere, gold, silver, so you could still trade. Because I talk to the Amish guys and they're always willing to take silver for anything. Still, they prefer that versus the paper dollars. But I think if what you're talking about and describing, where you start to see flash mobs cracking open windows and breaking into supermarkets and it all goes down, we would have a probably good 2-week lead out here before those masses would make it out. They're more rural countryside. But I think it was, you said, they only have 1 tank of gas, so they're only going to come out so far because they realize they need to go home. So that's viable for 1 or 2 runs for them. But then, again, it's all about growing more food after you eat the food by having seeds in a community to work together to replenish the stocks. Because marauders are in the worst position. They've used violence and coercion to go get their supplies. They burned a half a tank of gas to get out. They burned a half a tank to get back. And then their supplies are going to run out again because they have no way to replenish the stocks except stealing again. So to even be in the mind frame of working together to be able to grow food or whatever it might be to help filter water or keep heat going. I have a triple redundancy. If my electric goes out, I have a yurt out there with camp stove. So I can at least cook and have light. It's got glass on the sides. It's a winter well stove. We can burn wood and still be able to have boiled water, have heat and light. And with all the solar devices, we can still charge everything and have communications running off of solar recharging. Okay, that's small. But again, in trying to build a community, it's not you make it seem like I have thousands of people out here all organized. It's not like that at all. It's, people come out and help on the weekends, parents come down, other family come in, other people will come by and help and do something. They know it's a safe zone here. If something happens, you could definitely get over here and we'll take care of you. But at what point is it really going to drop out? You get that 2-week safety net, and then, you are going to have a lot of people run into your place, because if your place is way that far out where you're still getting, a good 14 to 20 days of safety in advance of the mobs, there are going to be way people coming out to your place to help you. And then it's just like it was in the Old West. Towns protected themselves, and the stories in the medieval times, if you want to go in that direction, it came down to communities policing communities. And it's been like that time immemorial. You probably know better than I how people would prevent the marauders from coming in. Yeah, you could build a fort, you can build high walls, but we don't have that time or energy to do that. But they're gonna have to come up with a local kind of economy too. Now, will that take the form of silver and gold usage or barter? You know far more about historical precedent for that. So let's say you do pull back and you got a community together. We got all these homes around here on the 200 acres, like 6 other homesteads here. Okay, everybody comes in, and then let's say 200 or 300 other people come out, and we can all totally protect this place. Nobody's coming in. All right, well, then there's another 2 of those communities down over here, about 4 miles that way, 5 miles that way. Oh, wait, there's another one over there. Okay, so what kind of local, small, usable items would it be for a new economy to workable, so I could trade with them and we don't have to actually haul over 200 pounds of apples to trade for something? Although that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, there's a book called The Patriot by Rawlings, I think. And it kind of goes through that whole scenario as things kind of settle down, and there are communities that have survived, and some, I guess you could say, thrive, and they would have like I'll call it a giant flea market, and kind of have security on the way in, and things got calm, and I think it's a well thought out book. But I don't enjoy talking about this, but I've always been a realist. I think it's important that people know that it's not something that's unusual in the long dates of human history. As you said, the Old West is basically, a group of people that built a town and looked after each other. I think it is going to come to that in some areas. I think to me, a very low lifestyle is a very high population density. I mean, even though I'm a football fan, I've been to many live games. You go into a stadium of 80,000 people, it doesn't matter how rich or poor you are, you're just a little sardine moving with the crowd. I mean, you can't really set your own pace. The crowd sets the pace. You move exactly whatever, RPM the crowd's moving. So back on point, let's be, I won't say positive. Outside of what I've done personally, you've done personally, what would be like, let's say, 3 things that you would tell the audience they can do? Take a deep breath. There is randomness, people that are in situations in the middle of the city that think from our conversation that maybe they don't have much of a chance if things really break down. I'll say if things really break down, they'll do fine. So there's this randomness that we cannot calculate ahead of time. There's too many variables in the human experience to say that everything goes a certain direction at a certain time. Having said that, what would be the top 3 things that you would suggest people do?
Learn some wild foraging. Understand that your mind and our minds in the world globally, the populace, our minds are so powerful that it could shift in seconds if people were thinking of the same thing, and this layer of reality that we exist in now could be bent or moved. And it's been talking about time immemorial. When large groups of people come together and focus on a single thought, reality bends. Now, if you could take it to 8 billion people thinking the same thing, reality would bend. Oh wait, they've already done that in the media to get us to bend for the elitists to move our world. What do you think the media is for? To get you to bend your mind the direction they want it to go to create the reality in front of you. So why would it not be the inverse of that, knowing that power exists in everybody? Will probably increase during these times with the 6th sense and different types of senses. And I hate to limit it to the 6th, because there's going to be so many things that are coming of abilities that we won't understand. We'll have to make new lexicon or new words for it based on the electromagnetic changes on the sun stepping down, a second magnetic field in earnest starting, and we haven't really experienced this. And what is history anyway? I mean, 2,000 years ago, the history is very murky back then. What are the accounts of supernatural powers coming through, or people being able to manifest a new world at that time by thought? So keep that in mind, that it's not all doom and gloom, that you still have your hope, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings to be able to bend and move your own reality too through this time. And it's going to be a mind game. You either stay positive that you think you can get through it and find your community and learn how to wild forage, and maybe take some of those wild forage edibles and learn what medicines you can create from them. But it's going to be about finding the community, maybe reaching out. Maybe I was too standoffish to, put my hand out away from people. It's hard to know who to trust, to bring into a community. But now that I think that time has passed, I think just like oil and water, things are just floating into different layers. And if somebody's coming out to your property, they're the ones that you probably want out there because, I don't know, just manifest destiny right now, the way it's working. It seems that a lot of equal vibratory persons are coming together. And it's just like magnets pulling each other together. So go find that community and find out where your local water sources are too. Just because you're in a city doesn't mean there's no water. If the water gets turned off, or do you even know how to walk out of a city? Let's say all the transportation's blocked off and can you walk out of a city? That's a practice thing to do too. But once you get out of that harm's way, then what? See, you're gonna have to have a community and somehow be able to get to it. How many movies have we seen in Hollywood where they escape the city, but then they gotta go, however many miles or whatever to get to that survival place, and all their adventures trying to get there and then trying to stay away from bandits and sneak through the forest at night and avoid the guards over there and crawl over the barbed wire and get over there. Finally, we made it. Pre-planning would be the best thing, and keeping your mind in a positive, knowing that we've survived this through history.
Yes.
And you have a timeline,
Right.
at least in my opinion, which most people didn't before. That's hugely powerful to know the timeline on it.
Well, I'm going to make one comment and give it back to you if there's anything you'd like to say to finish us off. Thank you very much for your time. And this came to me just the other night. I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before, but I've often talked about, money is power. And if you have the money power, the money masters, the elites, the bankers, you have power over people because most people, not all people, can be bought. But then I thought, really what is the ultimate power? There's one who has all power. That's God. May you find him now. And my point of that 3 sentences is love. It sounds corny. To some people, it sounds corny. Not certainly from my life's experience, that love could conquer nearly anything. And I think I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you circled that idea. And I thought it's important from now on that I try to at least convey that somewhere in any interview that I do or any that I give, that we really have got to stay grounded and focused and not get too wrapped up in what could be, but what is for our reality. Where you're at in Tennessee, you're going to have a different set of circumstances where I will, either in Washington or Montana, wherever I end up. And you can plan ahead. Of course, I wouldn't have stored food if I didn't plan ahead. But nonetheless, it's that person that does come to the gate, and you take them at an individual basis and examine it right then and there to your best of your human ability, and you make a decision. You don't have to sit there and really worry about what's happening in the next large town, because that's really out of stuff you could control. So if you'd like to comment on that, what I'm trying to convey here is that stay in the right frame of mind, have the right attitude, know that it's an experience here. It's not a forever thing. Everybody has an end point. As the late, great Jim Morrison said, no one here gets out alive. So we really want to do with the time that we have, be it short or long, under whatever human conditions we find ourselves, if we can, to stay in the most powerful place we can be, and that's in the power of love.
It is, and knowing that there's a great creator that is out there, that is beside you, in you at all times, that power resides in your atoms, in your molecules. You're not separated from the field. You're in it, you're part of it. So as we move forward, mind is going to be everything, including your belief system, so you come to the point of death. You're back with the great creator. Okay. We either live here on this planet, in this plane. If you exit that, don't fear things as you move through as well. The power of knowing you can grow food and harvest it and provide and forage and be able to purify water and have the basic needs met. That is so empowering. Even if you know how to build something for shelter, that is an empowering thing in itself. And then drawing on these energies, and through all the mystics and all this time, since time immemorial, using this force that's around us. Now, what you want to term that as, there's thousands of terms for it, but it's that energy field and consciousness of all time, space, dimensionality that is creation itself of the creator. So to step inside that field and know that you can move in that field build from that field of love and vibration and light, that's a very powerful thing. Just the hopelessness needs to go. It needs to, you can do something. You know, the situation's going to get a little rough moving forward. Change is going to be a constant. And as long as you know the changes or can at least anticipate a few of them, you can stay ahead. It's just, I feel a little empathy and sorrow for people who just won't know what's coming. And every time they move, it'll be because they're acting on what had happened, not seeing in advance maybe what could happen and getting ready. So when it does come, you're already ready to move. Where they'll just be stuck and go, what just happened? Oh, whoosh, and get pulled by the shirt. You got to go this way. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That shouldn't be like that for anybody. I think it'll be a shift in consciousness where everybody would know this is happening at the same time. It'll put our world into so much action. When you look at the signs of, like before there's an earthquake, an enormous amount of worms come out of the ground, snakes come out of the ground, frogs emerge, whatever, elephants run to the hills. They're feeling the electrostatic charge through the crust. They're feeling it. The electric discharge is felt by animals, not so much humans. But it's the same thing. I really feel this time we are going to become the animals. When this happens, it's going to be an electric charge through the entire, I don't know whether it be atmosphere or whatnot, but it will affect every human where you'll just trigger it on and go, whoa, something's up, game time right now. It's undeniable. There's no way to put it past, but it's here. And you're just going to intuitively sense that it's here. And you might even move much more succinctly, and every single action you take might be the perfect action. I don't know. There's a lot of these things that are primal instincts that have kept us alive through millions of years of these changes. And I can't believe that would just disappear because we have the internet now. Like that's hard woven into us.
I agree. Well, David, it's always fascinating to speak with you. And I've watched you, I'll say, develop. I think you're more interesting than the first time I stumbled upon Adapt 2030, and I said, this guy really knows what he's talking about. I know somewhat of your background because we're pretty, consider you a friend, about, what you did in the coffee business and when you were in China, which fascinated me. I was only in real China, I'm not counting Hong Kong, where I've been multiple times, but Beijing for several days. And just even in that short time, you kind of get a flavor for the culture. And so much different in so many ways. And I won't digress any further, but really appreciate your time, your insights, and what you are doing to help others, to look ahead, be real about it, don't overreact, but at least take appropriate actions, because, the word satisfaction has the word action in it. If you just sit there and contemplate things all day, that's not going to work. You have to have something that you put into action, I think, in order to really be able to adjust, adapt, and go with whatever was presented to you.
And you have this weekend for action. Go buy seeds, order seeds online, go out to the store, get beans and things that you can sprout into microgreens, just a whole bunch of things. You got a whole weekend, you can do some action this weekend. Yeah, David, I appreciate you having me on so we could talk further. I know I kind of hogged the mic on the time here. I was hoping to get some insights out of you too. I feel like a mic hog.
No, that's good. I mean, I think it was more important for my viewers to listen than, and plus it's a different venue than we usually do, but food, and be more self-reliant and value what you have. We are too wrapped up in this Western world, particularly, of what, stuff, rather than what we need. And we need more love. We need more love between us. That's a real big negative on Western culture in my studied view. And we're going to get the opportunity here every day to manifest that to everyone within our sphere.
And humanity, we're going to have to collectively put a camel through the eye of a needle. And I think it can be done. Truly, it can.
All right. Until we see each other again, thank you for your time. Can you tell us where they can find out more information?
On YouTube, as long as I exist there, the Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast, which I'm starting to put back up again. You can find that anywhere podcasts are hosted. Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and Brighteon. Those are all the Adapt 2030. At Adapt 2030, if you want to get into each of those different platforms. I've kind of gone away from updating anything, everything. I don't see a ROI on it anymore of updating the website or putting up social media posts or anything. I want to use the time to get ready here more. We're so close to it right now that, looking to the future for me, I'm reevaluating the future. So I'll keep the information coming as long as I can. And it's all time for us to get ready at this moment. So yeah, I appreciate your time, David. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.